with a prayer. And yeah, anytime, this is only like 3.5 hours. So,
What?
But anytime, so yeah, it's not going to be that long. But sometimes there are questions or people are asking. I mean, I'll be here as long as you ask questions. But whoever, if you need to get up and leave, you got big money on the game tonight, just get up and go. Okay. So, yeah, 8:15. So I think we'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, it's on the Colts.
All right, so we welcome everybody here and also live. Well, this isn't live stream, it's actually taped.
We'll post it.
We'll post it
On the website.
on the website. So we welcome all the people who are going to watch this afterward. We'll start with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Lord, we thank you for just all the blessings that you give to us, especially this Advent season, just readying our hearts for your comings, Christmas Day and your second coming in glory. And we ask that you bless us to ready our hearts for those events. And just bless all the people coming out tonight, all the people watching. And may we be inspired by what we see, what we hear, and just appreciate just the beauty of Italy and just all the religious sites, especially our Holy Father, and just all the saints that we'll see, the various churches. And may we just always thank you for our Catholic faith. And may Our Lady intercede for us. And we ask this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Mary, Mother of God.
Pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. All right, well, welcome, and yeah, thanks for coming out tonight. Just having like flashbacks of when you go to somebody's house and they bring out the slideshow and you're like, oh my goodness, honey, let's get out of here. Don't worry, it'll be really exciting. So I'm glad we have a captive audience. You chose to come tonight. So I just want to thank Kathy. Obviously, a lot of these are the personal pictures, but Kathy has, I think, a couple in there. But I had the easy job of sending her the ones that we wanted on, and she had the hard job of doing all this. So thank Kathy. And just any pilgrims here tonight, I see Nick. Oh, Judy, I see.
Tony's here.
Who's all here? Tony.
Tony.
Where's Tony? There's
Judy.
Tony, Judy, and Nick. Nick was on it. Anybody? Paul? Anybody else? Okay, that's cool.
Kathy.
Okay, Kathy. So these were some of the pilgrims. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us here.
Nice.
And Nick is, Nick, not to embarrass your age, but Nick is absolutely amazing. Went through the streets of Italy on a 10-day tour. And it's been, how old are you now, Nick? How old are you, your age?
90, December 15th.
He'll be 90 December 15th. He went through the streets of Italy. He's an amazing guy. And
the hills, it was crazy.
So just
He would say, "Where's Nick? He's up the top."
yeah, he's an amazing guy. He went to France with me, and that was about 5-6 years ago. Went to France. So he was the young 85 then.
The oldest one then, too.
You were the oldest one there too. So. Okay. Oh yeah, that's a whole nother story. His daughter said, "Whatever you do, don't lose my dad again." And I was like, "All right, we won't lose him again."
I know. He would text me, "Do you have Nick?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Where's Nick? That's a whole nother story for another day. But he survived. So anyway, what we want to do is, the thing is, I should have a clock on me, a little watch. Like each of these places, you could talk on for a while, There's just like when you hit a saint, the life of a saint, you'll be here talking about the saint. So I purposely do not want to do that tonight, to really delve into the life of the saint or too much of the place. But just to know that you're going to be seeing a lot, I'll hit upon it, but I just have to force myself not to overly talk on each place because they are amazing and exciting. So the other thing too is what you'll see here is, remember, on the internet's a great tool, just if something hits you or his father was talking about that saint, or he mentioned this about the saint and I'd like to know more. There's just so much that you could go on the internet, like on the places, the churches, the saints themselves, okay? And I'll probably have some other, stories as we go or anything that touched us, okay? So let us start. So these are the places we're at. So Orvieto. And so if you think of these places, we actually were at Rome first. So we flew to Rome, and then we immediately left Rome, and then we started going it would be northeast a bit, so Orvieto, Assisi. Then we started going down. So if you're looking at Italy, it would be on the east coast going down to Loreto, and then San Giovanni Rotondo. Then we start coming in a little bit, I think, or it's just to me on the coast, Lanciano. Subiaco, you start cutting across the country to head toward Rome, and then you go up to Rome. So Subiaco, I think, was like an hour and a half outside of south of Rome. So you kind of did just like a loop around like this. So just so you know the map. Okay, so we'll start, Kath. Okay, so this is Orvieto. So this is a beautiful. Oh, can you start? So this is just an amazing, beautiful town. Not that we're in a lot of neat places because they weren't overly that big. Some of these towns we were in, and the other theme of it was Eucharistic miracles. So you'll see that happening. There was just so many connections with this pilgrimage. That's amazing. But anyway. Orvieto, so there's a beautiful cathedral there, and the town itself it's a well-known, like a beautiful town people like to go to. Not very large, just the old classic little streets you walk through. So the church is absolutely beautiful. I mean, just at the outside, and huge. I mean, that picture doesn't overly do it justice how big this place is. So when you go in, if you go in straight down the aisle and you go almost toward the front, and then you make a left toward the front, the left side, you'll see the next picture, and this is the side chapel of the giant church. So this is what it's known for. We were right there before that. So we said that our first mass here at Orvieto. So why go to Orvieto? So in the town Bolsena, which was not far away from there in 1263, you see some parallels in these towns, but in 1263 there was a priest who doubted the true presence of the Eucharist. So he was doubting, thinking, does the bread and wine really turn into the body and blood of Christ? And he says Mass at Bolsena, and the bread and wine become into human flesh. And so it's all AB blood type whenever you see these miracles of Jesus, right? There's a lot of them, and it's all the same blood type, AB. So it becomes human flesh and blood. They do scientific research on it. It's human flesh and blood, So he says the Mass in the local town. Just so happens in Orvieto, back then in 1263, the Pope was in Orvieto. So he comes rushing to get the Pope, and then the rest is history, and they put the Eucharist there on display. So I was thinking that when we go there, you see the Eucharist, you see, what there is to see. And so we get there, and the Eucharist is behind these gold little doors, those two doors at the top, and I didn't think it was a big deal, like they would open it would be nothing major. And so they open it up at Easter time, Christmas time, Corpus Christi, and the Assumption, because this church is dedicated to Our Lady of the Assumption. So 4 times a year, there's a nun there with kind of broken English. She says, well, if you got diocesan permission, you can open it. And I was just like, well, I'm happy to be here, right? I'm happy to be in Orvieto. I'm happy to say Mass. So this is me on the right, and this is Father Dan Wojcicki, and he is ordained 5 years. So I know him from back in the seminary days when I was vice rector, and he was just a blessing. He decided to come, and he just helped me out, help everybody out. So he's a really neat guy, Father Dan. So there we are saying Mass. When we say Mass, it's real powerful, all charged up. And then the next one. So lo and behold, we say Mass, everybody leaves, and Father Dan and I are in the back unvesting, and then we come back out and we say our prayers of thanksgiving. Another really important thing here to remember, you'll see another powerful story. The prayers of thanksgiving after Mass. So important, right? So a lot of times we're like sprinting out the door and whatever we need to do, that important, but you really want to say thank you to God, take some time in prayer and thanksgiving to receive the Eucharist. So that's what we do. And Father Dan and I come out, this guy comes out, a maintenance man in a suit, no English, just walking through, has some words with the sister, and said, basically, and she looks at me and said, he's opening up the gold doors. There's a maintenance issue. He wants to put it on for like 4 minutes and see if the light works. And Father Dan and I were like, really?
Yeah. Show them to the LED.
We were like, what? There was like 2, 3 other people, not our people, but there's visitors all the time, that kind of thing. They're hanging around. We're there. We're like looking at each other like, no way, right? So we were just praising the Lord. This guy comes out, goes behind the screen. The doors open and it's dark, and you can still see it. We're just happy to be there. Next thing you know, it puts the light on, and then after a couple of minutes, he comes back around, and I said to him, "Thank you." And he said, "Prego." He kept like walking down. It was just like so providential. So when you see this, you'll see there's 25 drops of blood on this corporal, which are human blood AB. And AB is the universal blood type. So AB, he will say Jesus, he could take anyone's blood within him, which is how fitting is that, right? He takes us all upon himself. And so actually, you can't really see it. There's actually, oh, there it is. There's a gold, silver, like a circle here with the remnants of the Eucharist in it. They were telling me that this doesn't really have anything. She was saying it was all in here. So anyway, that was Orvieto, and we better get moving. That's the first place we went to. Sorry. So just a couple of things. We head to Assisi next. So Orvieto to Assisi. Assisi's amazing town, right? So famous for Saint Francis of Assisi and Saint Clare of Assisi, one of these guy-girl tandems that just light up the church, right? And so I just put a couple pictures. One, this is not a photo I took. They weren't letting you take pictures in this part. This was in the big basilica. This is a famous painting of St. Francis, trying to depict him as he would have looked. So obviously a little guy. And you'll see the two pictures, ears coming out a little bit, and they said thinner face. So that's a famous picture. I just wanted you to see that. And then another one. So here's the basilica. So just breathtaking town. You walk up this huge plaza here. They do different things here. I've seen the Pope do different things in this big plaza.
Wasn't he golfing there or something?
Oh, that was a picture. They had a Pope picture of the Pope golfing. It wasn't real. It was like a caricature. But anyway, so you go into the basilica there. We actually had mass in the crypt.
I put that in here.
So that's where we said mass. It was downstairs there. It wasn't the main
It was
church.
a old chapel.
But it was powerful. All right. And that's the plaza from the top, so overlooking Assisi. And that's another angle from the top view, looking at the basilica. So they weren't letting you take pictures in here at anything. It's interesting. Without flashes, I don't know why they would not. I guess the sacredness of it, but I don't know. I'm not an expert on what damages photos. But anyway, so in the crypt, you just go down, is the tomb of St. Francis, and it's like a stone kind of tomb. Nothing fancy about it, but they do not let you take pictures down there. And then the upstairs is the Giotto, the famous paintings. You can go online and see these, but they just weren't letting us take pictures. And so that's outside the basilica there. We just had a group shot there. All right. And so this is not a whole lot to take in, but I just want you to see it. So San Damiano. So this is where, so when St. Clare, she comes, this is one of the churches that St. Francis rebuilds, but it's inside there, you can't really see it. So this is the famous convent where St. Clare herself and her early poor Clares would have lived at. There was friars, I think, connected to there too. But that's a really amazing place, San Damiano. So you're able, that's the place where St. Francis, remember, well, this is a whole nother story, but the very short version of St. Francis of Assisi. So he's this carefree youth, wealthy, has this major conversion story. And remember, he kisses the leper. He couldn't stand lepers. And then he sees a leper when he's having this conversion. He kisses the leper on the mouth. And then after that, he said, "I forsook the world." And so he has this vision of this cross that we'll see, the cross of San Damiano, and he's looking at the crucifix, and the Lord speaks to him in it and says, "Francis, rebuild my church." So Francis started to rebuild these little churches in Assisi. The God was talking about rebuilding the whole church, the whole Catholic Church in the world. So one of those is in there that he rebuilds. And that's the cross of San Damiano. this is the one that speaks to him. They weren't letting you take pictures, so it'll go unsaid. It was not me, but who took this picture? But anyway, so that's the crucifix. That's the crucifix. All right. So when you're in, you saw Assisi there. So if you're kind of looking at the town and you see the basilica on the far left, if you're looking up the hill, and then San Damiano's would be like, say, behind your back, not too far away. Then it's basically the center of the town, like at least as much as I saw. You go down this one little road and you end up at St. Mary Major, which the roads are really small, and the church is a little bit out of the way, like of the main strip. You just walk down there and go around. When you go in this church, it obviously to go see the body of Blessed Carlo Acutis. Remember, he was that's when we had the whole display, the Eucharistic display here, and so we wanted to obviously see his body, which is a magnet, right? I mean, just we had free time there for like 3-4 hours, and I ended up there on my own for 4 hours. Not in the same place. I ended up in Assisi. I ended up back there 4 times. I just was so drawn to this, the Blessed Carlo Acutis. Not only me, there was just different packs of people coming throughout that time when I was there, just going to the body. So you see him with his Nikes, his blue jeans, his sweatshirt on, and IHS Jesus, the truncated Jesus that means Jesus there. So this is a mask. So they just have amazing masks that they make here. That I think it's his real hair and stuff, but they said he's intact but not incorruptible. So he just an amazing.
There's a mask on his hands and his feet too.
Yeah, it's amazing how real it is, though.
That's amazing.
It is, because when you see Padre Pio, you'll see what they put on the hands
So-
now.
And so this is one of the pictures that I just showed is, so this is the Church of St. Mary Major. It's kind of an odd angle, but this is the left side before the Eucharist. I was kneeling here in like the front row. Then you look over to the main body of the church, and then I saw Our Lady. And then you look at the far end of the church, and there's Blessed Carlo in the glass over here. So I was like, this is amazing. Like there I was just taking time on my own in prayer. I was before the Eucharist looking at Our Lady and turning her right, and there's Blessed Carlo. I was like, this is like an ultimate prayer experience right here. So I didn't want to leave. I loved it. And then in Blessed Carlo too, one of the graces that I received was, he just said, Tara, think eternally. You know, everything you say, everything you do, think in the eternal realm. Like we get so caught up in just the today and the passing things, but think eternally. You know, it's just such a, I just share that with you. It's just such a grace that came to me. See everything through eternity. All right. And this is on, so if you're looking at St. Francis on one side, Blessed Carlo be in the middle, and then on the far right is the big church, the St. Clare. Then you go downstairs. They weren't letting you take pictures there. You go downstairs and you see her body, also St. Clare on the other side. So just a lot going on here in this small town of Assisi. And then we actually, at the bottom of the hill is Our Lady of the Angels, a huge church. So the church is built over the Porziuncola. So this is one of the churches, like San Damiano. This little church is one of them that St. Francis was building by hand and got his early followers. So this is inside the huge church. It's beautiful. So you could go in there and pray. And then there's another angle we have. So here it is here. So he rebuilt this church, and then they built a church over top of that church. And this is that's the original church. That little one is Porziuncola, but there was the other one, San Damiano. I don't know which one he constructed first, but that's a famous one, San Damiano, Porziuncola. This was their headquarters too. This is where he died. Was in this church. Well, not in the church, but around there. I don't know where exactly he died, but that area there was the early Franciscans and where he actually died. There's more to it. This area will show you. This is just an outlook of all of Assisi. And this is Our Lady of Loreto. So from Assisi, we went down to the town of Loreto, which you all heard about. So I was just reading on it and said that next to Lourdes and Fatima, this is the most visited shrine in Europe, and for Mary devotion. So it has Fatima, Lourdes, and Loreto. And so this is a beautiful town. It was a nice, decent sized town, and it was kind of a rainy, overcast day, so it really added to, I think, the solemnness, the solemnity that we were doing, you know. So this is the church here. It's pretty good size. It didn't look that big from the outside. So here we are again, a church within a church. So what is Our Lady of Loretto? So this is see this part here? This is the church within a church. So that's Mary's house. So in Nazareth, you could obviously go to the Church of the Annunciation, and then when you go to the crypt of the Annunciation, that's Mary's house, the location. And so what they did is they're thinking in 1291 to 1294, they were taking the Crusades. They didn't want anything to happen in these houses, so they took Mary's house, the brick by brick, and they shipped it over to, I think it ended up somewhere else, and it eventually goes to Loretto, and then they reconstruct the house in Loretto, and so they have the three sides of it. So 1, 2, 3. Obviously, that's the fancy, like added what you're seeing there. They weren't letting you take pictures inside there, but it's like the old, like a brown sort of stone, like thin stone inside that. And it's just a real sacred place when you go in there. You just don't want to leave, you know, just everybody's just praying up a storm. Not very big. So they do testing in that brick and mortar found for Palestine. So like only there, they wouldn't be in Loretto where they come, but they come from over from Palestine. And the tradition too, connected with it all is the angels bring the house over. So I think the idea is the Crusaders, they bring it all over with the guidance of the angels. And to do all this kind of heavy stuff in the 1200s, it's not the easiest thing to do, right? And it miraculously ends up here intact. Well, not intact, and I think they rebuilt it from there. So this is just a side angle. It's another church within a church. And then we went, so Loretto, we had mass there. Didn't see a lot of that town. It looked like a nice town. We just had to get moving. So then from Loretto, you're going south and you're going to San Giovanni Rotondo. So from there, we're going to see Padre Pio. So this is where we pulled up to the hotel, and then I just excitedly jumped out and saw the gold Padre Pio. It's like, let me get a picture of Padre Pio. So there's Padre Pio at our hotel. They're welcoming us. And our hotel is a little like down. So if you can picture it, it sits up a hill. So you're down below, just kind of keeps escalating up. And at the top of the hill is this house for the alleviation of suffering. So this is was his dream to build this hospital. And you can't see it, but at the top is the crucified Christ, this giant crucifix. So you see this big like mural banner of Padre Pio, and it's a world-renowned hospital. You think, in this little town in Italy, and you're wondering like what kind of hospital, but it's a world-renowned hospital. So if you're looking at it, we would be below the hospital, sort of right in the center. Then to the left is the church. This is like this was a walkway up there. I didn't get up there. They like closed it off when I went up there, but you could go to the top of these. There were Stations of the Cross up at the top of the hill. And the churches, so you can really see the churches would be to the left of that. So you have a little church, the original, and then to the right is a bigger church they built in 1968. So this is the original church. Padre Pio would have said mass in both of these places. So they're right next to each other, so you could just walk through, the walkway right to the next one. So this is the original old church, and we had mass in here, and so you would say mass. We said mass with our back to the people because they never, changed it. So we said mass right here, and to the left of that, I don't know. I thought I had a picture, but I don't necessarily know take it. It was his old confessional was to the left of this. And then when you're in that little church and you cross over to the big church, this is the big church. And later on, they didn't have this for Padre Pio when he was alive, but later on they painted Padre Pio in here. So if you watch those old videos, you'll see Padre Pio saying mass in this church. It's a pretty good sized church. So this is 19, I think it was in the later 50, like 58. They dedicate this church, and he walks in, and there's so many followers during his lifetime, Padre Pio. So he walks into this church, and he said, "You're going to need a bigger church." You know? I mean, grace was just working through him so much, and the pilgrims coming to him and going to him for confession, and just an amazing guy. And he, obviously, we know about Padre Pio. He's the one with the stigmata, and he dies in 1968. And just you could feel his presence there in a special way. You know? So this was after the mass. They get you. I'll just share kind of a side story. So they get you in this room. It wasn't very big. We had 35 of us kind of jammed in there. And they show you a video. And then this is Father Dan and me. And so we come over, and the lady had us put the stoles on. She said, "Fathers, can you put the stoles on and bless all the people with the relics?" So they had so she handed me this glove of Padre Pio. Father Dan, I gave that to Dan. It's the one of those cut-off gloves, the brown gloves. So Father Dan had that. And then, this was like one of the highlights of my trip, is I'm standing there, and just a little bit of background is the original trip that I organized was going from Assisi and then going up. So it was going to go to Venice and Padua and Florence, and that was it. And you really have to make that choice going up or down based on like 10 days and the money. So after it was canceled, COVID, and I always loved Padre Pio, but then I started reading another book on Padre Pio. And so when it came time to like organize this one, I said, we're going to see Padre Pio, right? So that was really the crux of it, to see Padre Pio, to go down south. So we go, so I knew that in my heart, it just has a huge place in my heart. And so she hands me this crucifix in this plastic with white, and she said, and this is the other relic, Father, this is the cross that Padre Pio kissed every night before he went to bed. And I just stopped absolutely dead in my tracks. So it's identical cross to when my dad was dying of cancer. Bishop Bradley came to see him at Shadyside Hospital, and Bishop Bradley told me the story. He gives him that cross, and then my dad kissed the cross, and then I, every single night, have that by my bedside and kiss that cross. So when she said, "This is the cross he kissed every night," it looked identical to the one I have, I was just like frozen. I was just like such a grace, And I shared that with all the pilgrims. There wasn't a dry eye in the place, including my own. I was just like, but I'm not that overly like emotional and that kind of stuff. And it just like froze me. Like I was like, whoa, So anyway, we blessed everybody. That's the cross from Padre Pio that we got in plastic there. And that's my cross that I kiss every night. So it's just like the same thing. It was just really deep. And that's the glove that we showed you.
Is there blood on that?
No, I
No, it's from the
don't think so. I don't know if she said that. I didn't catch it. There are, when you go through, so basically when you're at Padre Pio, it's kind of like confusing how it all goes. So if you could picture like the churches, you have the old church and the newer church, and then within all that is the monastery, the friary. So then you could walk through like all this, his room and all. This is his room right here. And then on the far left is one of those big plazas like we saw in Assisi, like the huge plaza. And that takes you down to the new church that seats, I think, 7,000. So that, and I have a picture of that one. So, and that's where his body's at, which you'll see. So it's kind of like all that together, So this is his room, which is really neat. And this is all in glass. So, you're in front of a piece of glass. And it's just so neat to just like stand there and see it. You'll see he had various health issues. So they have all those kind of means too, like an oxygen tank here. And it's just neat to see like what he had on the walls. You see a picture of Jesus, obviously his crucifix, picture of Our Lady, I think picture of his parents. It's just neat to see it like so pristine, like how it looked when he was there.
What's that stuff on the floor?
Yeah, what is the papers on the floor?
That I think is people sliding prayers and stuff into the doors.
Okay.
You'll see that at different, even like his confessional, it's all glassed up so you can't go, but then people are like throwing stuff over the top. And I guess they probably clean it out every so often. But yeah, that's how they slide them into the doors and things like that. So this was neat too, back to the prayer of Thanksgiving after Mass, this is the old church. This is where we said Mass, the old church. And so in the choir loft he used to go up there to pray after Mass. And so, I have a picture of it, but he's praying up here in the choir loft after Mass. He's looking at this crucifix, and he receives the stigmata. So it happened after Mass and Thanksgiving, and he's looking at that crucifix, and he's struck with the stigmata. And what's neat, I don't know the dates of like when these were painted, like if it was there when he was there, but I found it really neat that you see above the cross the devil. It's a really scary picture of the devil, and then Saint Michael standing on top of the devil, because Padre Pio had all those battles with Satan, you know. And so it's a kind of poignant. I was just up there praying on my own and just thinking of stuff, and then I saw that, and I got like below the crucifix looking up, and you see like the devil right there and Saint Michael right there, just like kind of putting all the good and evil right before your eyes, you know. And then there's Padre Pio. So, and that, he's not incorrupt. That's a mask, but it's his real like hair in it. But it looks like so real, this stuff. You can kind of see his hands. They're like,
The next one.
like brownish color.
There's
Yeah,
his
like,
hand,
see his
that black
hands.
holding the cross. That's why they put gloves on them now. Like,
And so,
blessed
yeah, so people come in. That's in the newer church on the far left, like when you have to walk all the way down. And so there's people coming in constantly, like they're coming in through to see him, and they just kind of like walk through. It's like a crypt chapel. There they are. So it's a crypt chapel. So they're walking in, and you're seeing Padre Pio going. It's November. I can imagine this place in like June, July. I mean, I'm so glad we went when we did. And it's not like always crowded like that. That was a big run, but it seems in November, like you just get like different kind of spurts. So I was hanging out there a lot, and sometimes, you know, just be like a handful of people, and then all of a sudden you see like a crew, and that's how it happens there. And this is the new church. So this was, they just built sort of like an arena kind of church, and it's really, I mean, it wasn't like my favorite church, but I mean, you want to build a structure that can sit, I think it's 6,500 or so, 70,000. So I'm sure it was a lot less money than trying to build a church that seats 7,000 in an old stone church. So I think they just really needed, it's pretty though, I mean, it's different. They just needed something really big to house a lot of people, you know. And this is the top where this is the choir loft. There's another picture. It's one of his habits there too. They had a couple of his habits around. And so there's the choir loft that he was praying in. It's interesting, side note is to break up the slideshow here. A side note is that, you know, he had the stigmata, and so the 5 wounds of Christ, and so he's in, you know, always in pain, that kind of thing, wearing the gloves. And so St. John Paul II, he asked him, Padre Pio, of the 5 wounds that you were given, which one hurts the most? And he said, none of these. And he said, what do you mean? He said, that what hurts me the most is my shoulder, because of the carrying the cross of Christ. So it's amazing to think of that, huh? So he had the 5 wounds, but then the most painful part of it all was his shoulder, because he was given that pain too, like the cross of Christ on his shoulder. There's a great prayer, prayer to the shoulder of Christ. If you're interested, you can find that online. A friend of mine always sends me that here and there. You know, it's a great reminder. But the prayer to the, how we put it, the prayer to the shoulder of wound of Christ or something. It's not a long prayer, but really a powerful prayer. And so from San Giovanni Rotondo, we started going down, and then, well, we're still at San Giovanni Rotondo. We're still staying there. But from there is a side trip to the mountain of St. Michael, the Angel Mountain. And so this is a famous place. that Padre Pio's day, obviously this is 492, so this is going way back. So the long story short is the St. Michael appears to the bishop, and essentially there's a lot to the story, good internet reading, but one of the things is to build me a shrine. That he appeared in this cave, and he said, I watch over this place, I watch over this cave, I watch over this land, build a shrine so people can come and be protected. So this is an appearance of St. Michael the Archangel. So this is a popular place too. I didn't really know of it until we were planning this trip, but it is a really well-known place. A lot of the popes and things have come. St. John Paul II is there. St. Francis of Assisi himself was there, and he got there and he felt too unworthy to enter, so he stayed outside the whole day fasting and praying, and then he got up to the front and he kissed he didn't get into the church, but like where the church began, he kissed the floor and left, you know? So St. Francis was such a humble guy, you know? And so I think there's a cross, I don't know if he made it, but I saw a video of the T cross, that Tau cross, which is popular. The last letter in the Jewish alphabet, Tau, that's a famous Franciscan cross. So I saw it on the wall. I don't know if he like made that or they did that for his honor. But anyway, we got in there, and there was a holy hour and holy hour, divine mercy. So like all these people were there from all over the place. So we just kind of did some praying, which was really powerful. It's a pretty good sized cave. So if you're ever up that way, you definitely want to go here to St. Michael. And then the other.
You weren't allowed to take pictures.
Oh, we weren't? I got one in there. I didn't take that one. I took the one
I
similar
did.
But, oh yeah, I think I found out that later on. I was just like, nobody told me, but somebody told me later. I was like, really? Okay. But, yeah, the other neat thing to read about on the internet is the points of St. Michael. So there's this St. Michael sword. So it's from 7 monasteries perfectly lined up from Ireland to Israel in these 7 monasteries. So when you put them on the map, it's a perfect line. So of all these, apparitions, a perfect line. And they say it's St. Michael's sword, the sword used to cast Satan into hell. But it's a really neat thing to read about on the internet. So Mount Saint Michel, which is a big famous place in France, is one of those. And then there's the one in between, and then the one we saw. And those are 3 they're perfect the same distance. So it's just really neat to read about this 7, the line of these monasteries for St. Michael. So, and these are just some stone carvings that are there. Oh, this is Tony. Well, I thought maybe he would show up today. Tony here? No, from St. Robert. He's an usher at St. Robert, Tony Morgano. So anyway, this is just, I came bopping in to Lanciano. So we're coming down, so we're going to Lanciano, another Eucharistic miracle. So his, I think it's his, I don't know if it's his first, maybe his second cousin, and her husband. So I came bopping in, it's like tiring, I got mass in like 10 minutes, I'm like, I need another new place, and there they are. At first she was like the tour guide, like taking us through the mass, and she said, are you Father Terry? I was like, yeah, that's me. And she said, I'm Tony's cousin. So I knew, he set that all up, but it was kind of cool just seeing like somebody connection like in Lanciano, which is not overly that big of a town. And so it's kind of cool. I didn't have a lot of time with them. I felt bad, and they had to get going. So this is I was just rushing in the mass. So this was on Sunday. We had mass at Lanciano. So I just wanted to put that up, that connection. So Lanciano is another Eucharistic miracle. Similar idea, 750 around there, is the priest is having doubts about the true presence of Christ. And then he consecrates, the Eucharist, and it becomes flesh and blood, AB type. And same thing, science says it's human flesh, human blood. This one's a little more, you can get closer and to this one. So this is, you get back up. So this is the Eucharist in here, and then the remnants of the Eucharist, I guess everything that was, found on the corporal. So there's a church, then there's a back sort of room church. We were in the back room church saying Mass. So you can see in the glass this Eucharistic miracle from the main beautiful church, and also in sort of a back chapel that we were in. So it's glass also, so you can look at the Eucharist. And that's the close up. So it is a neat town. And that was a pretty town too, Lanciano. We were there on the Sunday. It was neat too. Another thing to take away, just kind of learn different things when you go away. But on Sunday we're going around. I think some of the restaurants like were open, like everything was closed except the pharmacias, and they were a couple of them open from 9 to 1 p.m. And just the town, but the town still had all like the people roaming around and doing things as a family. So I just thought that was I'd love it if it was like that in the United States, but Rome less, not like there, but these small Italian towns, beautiful how they take care of Sunday. And it's just like this family day, and it kind of roam the streets and without the stores open. It was really powerful. All right, so you still with me? Any questions so far? How am I doing on time? What time?
Yes,
We good?
For today.
Whoa, okay. We're good. We're kind of closing, and we're closing toward Rome. But anyway, so when you're looking Lanciano, and then you start coming, I think it's down a bit, and then coming west. So you're coming west. So we planned this out, the tour guide Belinda and I, so we knew what we were going to see on that side, and then I said from Lanciano, without knowing Subiaco, is there something in between? Like there has to be, you're in Italy, there has to be something in between this point to that point. It was a pretty good drive. And so she said we could try to hit Subiaco. And so then when you get to Subiaco, that's only about an hour and a half outside of Rome. And so anyway, we were able to go to Subiaco, which was amazing place. So this is in the just breathtaking mountains. And now, there's stuff here, but back then when St. Benedict was 19, 20 years old and running out of Rome because of secularism and the hedonism and saying like this world's crazy and the immorality. So anyway, he goes to the mountains, and he's in a big cave in the mountains, and this is where he starts, he's prays there for 3 years, and it's intense, the devil on his back, and he's praying. You can imagine like that age thing, like, Lord, what do you want me to do? And it was neat to be there because I thought, wow, just from there, he starts, this Benedictine order, right? Saint Scholastic, his sister, some say, twin sister, she starts the female Benedictines. So just to think of like what they did when he came out of this cave, like how God starts really small and then does that. And I was thinking, of course, being educated by the Benedictines at St. Vincent, I'm thinking like, here I am in a cave in Subiaco. I'm like, thank you, St. Benedict. I went to St. Vincent and was educated to be a priest there. And then, here you are starting in this cave and like all the way in Latrobe. And of course, my classmate, his mom's here. And Jean-Luc Zadroga, who was ordained with me, but then became a Benedictine monk. So it's just like a really neat experience, just on a personal level. So, all right, so, okay. So if you could, that monastery is built, so basically if you could picture the cave being like right below in that monastery, so they just kind of like build this church and monastery above the cave.
Yeah, it's 1,000 steps up there.
Yeah, it was it was a lot of steps up there. St. Benedict was in good shape. And so this was the abbot of the monastery at Subiaco. So he just was bopping around. He said we were the first Americans he saw since COVID. So he said, this is good news, But the place was crowded. This, Father Dan, some pilgrims roaming around. Hey, there's Tony. Okay.
Yeah, you can see him.
Oh, I just put this on here because we did not get to see this, but I think since COVID they shut it down. And it was actually in there, there's the church with the old mosaics, like 1300s. And we saw that, and then there was this one like place where you take these steps up into this park, and they have it shut down since COVID. and they haven't reopened it. But if you get to Subiaco next time, this is the oldest known picture of St. Francis of Assisi. So St. Francis, who's 700 years after St. Benedict, he went to Subiaco, and I think he was there for about a year in prayer, praying, that kind of thing. And this is a contemporary portrait of him. And so you see him without the stigmata. So it's that like contemporary, he didn't get the stigmata yet. And he's also alive, he doesn't have the halo above him. So it's pretty neat to think about that. So try and look at the other picture we had in this kind of thinner face, a little bit of a beard. So it's kind of neat to see the oldest known painting of St. Francis during his lifetime. Okay. And this is inside, so it's just beautiful. Once you get inside there, you see this church here. Then it starts going down stairs to the cave he's in. But it's just really filled with a lot of the life of Saint Benedict. And this is the cave, so it's a pretty good-sized cave, and they have this famous statue here of Saint Benedict, and that's where he would, prayed there for 3 years. And this is I just took like this panorama. So this was the monastery there, and then it's just breathtaking. So it just like went throughout. This is funny, the picture looks like a V, but it actually went straight across. So it was like that panorama view. So. And this is, if you can imagine, back at the Porziuncola, back in that little church above the little church within the church back in Assisi. So the one that St. Francis built, this is where St. Francis preaches to the doves, and then there's always a dove next to him. It's like in the church, but it's sort of like going, not in the church, but like going outside. It's still covered up, but you always see a dove there. And then next to that is the rose garden where St. Francis was tempted, into like sexual sins, that kind of thing. So he figured, well, I'm just going to throw myself in the thorn bushes. And before he touched the thorn bushes, there were no thorns on there. And to this day, there's no thorns on these bushes here. So it's a well-known thing. That's all back at the Porziuncola. Then this one there's another rose bushes. So this is Subiaco, where St. Benedict was. Similar idea. So St. Benedict was on the top of the hill in the cave. He felt those temptations. And so he started to cast himself down the hill, and then he miraculously survived it. And then St. Francis, he said that's a miracle he survived. So St. Francis, when he was in Subiaco, he planted the rose garden, and to this day, I don't know if it's still going. I don't know if it's the exact same plant or what it is, but this is they keep the rose garden going that St. Francis planted when he was there for a year. So we can learn from the saints to throw themselves into like rose gardens and bushes and anything to avoid sin, right? But that's just a picture of us on
The staff.
this is our staff here. Everybody knows. Bonnie, Kathleen,
It's a nice picture.
and that's back at the thorn bushes with St. Francis. Oh, that was me. That was at they had like turnpike stops. So at moments you felt like you were in Pennsylvania, which was kind of funny. So that was just at a turnpike stop. They had those little things you read.
Yeah, and these ladies
Hi,
on the bus,
Silver.
they're like, they didn't nail him that well. They're like, well, Father Ryland doesn't it? Yeah. So they're like, no. I'm like, yeah. He comes on, I go, well, you get on that horse so I can take a picture. He goes, yeah, I'll get on that.
It was fun. All right, so now we're at the end stretch here. So we have some of Rome to go to, okay? And so our first stop in Rome so there's 4 basilicas in Rome, so we'll hit the 4, okay? So one is St. Paul outside the walls. So outside of the walls because he was a Roman citizen, so he had to be killed outside the walls of Rome. So he's killed here, and then his body's in here. So they're beautiful. These 4 basilicas are, you see the one on TV mostly, St. Peter's Basilica, the one associated with the Vatican. But these others, they're all like beautiful. St. Peter's is the biggest church in the world. that's like, they're all great though, but that's breathtaking, St. Peter's walking in there. So this is St. Paul outside the walls, and it was just beautiful. There was actually a funeral going on there. Like, yeah, so this is,
The same picture, just close up.
yeah, just closer. One of the things that I like is the tour guide was pointing out is you'll see a lot of times like the different saints, they'll have their hands pointed like this, and it's pointed toward Christ, like you want him. And then there's some with the Blessed Virgin Mary like that too, which we know that, but it was just a neat reminder to see their hands pointing toward Jesus, like you want him, like he's it, like follow him, so I love that. This is St. Paul outside the wall, so just gorgeous on the outside too. The evangelists up here. This is neat too. It might be hard to see, but you have the sheep, the Lamb of God here, and then they're following him, the sheep. So they're 12 sheep, the apostles following him. And this is a beautiful statue outside, and it's just really neat gardens. This is another group shot we had. Oh, look at that crew.
Yeah.
And this is one of it's like sort of, I don't know if they called a palm tree, one of these kind of trees that he would have been tied to when he was beheaded. So they have these 4 trees, not the same that exact one, but they have a depiction of it. So there's 4 of these within the courtyard. This is just some more. The ceilings were amazing. There's the gold, the ceilings. This one has the 265 popes, so St. Peter, and this goes through all the popes at St. Paul. So this is leading up to St. Francis, and the natural light shines right on St. Francis, or Pope Francis. So, yeah, they like, point that out, the light's right on him. Those are so close up of it. And this is just by his tomb in the front, so it's underneath the altar there. Behind the altar underneath is his original tomb. And that's part of it. It's hard, what you could see of it. They did studies not that long ago. Pope Benedict, they cut some up and opened it, some of the tomb of St. Paul. And it was neat. They found this like linen cloth from 1st century Palestine, and or somewhere over there where they made the special cloth to do that. But it's neat. It's the same time that he would have died. So it's just a view of Rome from over here. Piazza Navona. This is the big famous square. Bernini's the famous fountain. You guys may have been here. I think we ate at this cafe too. The pizza was there. This is the Bernini's famous fountain, Piazza Navona. Navona, am I saying that right? This is a caricature that I was like, I don't know if it really no, but I walk up and I was like, Belinda, where do we go now? And she's like, oh, just come on, Paul. I was like, okay. The next thing you know, there's chairs, like, Paul, they're sitting down. I was like, what do you mean sit down? And I was like, am I sitting here actually doing this? So I just got.
We all watched.
So I had 35 people. No, a little less, a little more. Dude, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? It was hilarious. But there was this guy who was painting me. I don't know if he knew English. So my first line was like, don't be bashful with the hair, buddy. Just come and But anyway, so I got a cool caricature. And this is the Pantheon. So this is really neat, a famous big pagan temple. So the pagan temple, and then converted into a church. And one of these squares, these squares are just so popular. Like you'll go walking for a while, and then you just see this amazing, beautiful square. You're like, wow, this is so neat. So they're just known for a beautiful city. Obviously we're at most of the religious stuff, but we're able to see a lot of the towns and just really beautiful town. And Bernini's fountain, or Trevi Fountain, Trevi Fountain. So this was pretty crowded for November. I can imagine during the regular time, but people were everywhere around here, and obviously throwing coins.
There was a photo shoot of that bride. Was that a bride or something?
No, there's like a photo shoot with this blonde girl with a red dress, and the red dress was like 20 feet past her, and she's like on the thing, and they're like taking these pictures. It was all kind of action going on down there. And then you throw the coins in, you know, and the hope is to get back there one day. And so I did throw them in 24 years ago, and I got back. 24, I better get there sooner next time. I don't know if I'll make it. So anyway, this is the Spanish Steps, and just the place to be, right? Just like a lot of people hanging out. And it's funny, you're not supposed to hang out on the Spanish Steps. Everybody hangs out on the Spanish Steps, gets pictures, and then the guard will come down and they shoot everybody off the Spanish Steps. Then they all get back on the Spanish Steps. Then they shoot them off. So I don't know if they wait like a certain amount of time and they get them. And up top is a beautiful church too. And St. Francis, I think, founded a friary up top. So it's a well-known church up here. Yeah, I ran up to see the church, so I got in, and then I took a picture, like looking down from the Spanish Steps. And then further down that way, like you go to another square, and there's two famous paintings. The tour guide Caravaggio, you guys know him, Caravaggio, and so I knew that he told me these two were in there, so I wanted to go down. So I went ahead of the group. I knew they were behind me a bit, and then I saw this is the conversion of St. Paul, the Caravaggio who's fallen from his horse and the light on him. And then also across the way is the crucifixion of St. Peter. And so he's crucified upside down. So these two you put two like euros, $2 of euros in it, and it lights up, and then you go in and see it. So kind of, I guess it's so attractive that they're having you're helping them pay the light bill, So this is just a picture, obviously, the Vatican, and the crowds are pretty good. This is the Pope's.
Yeah.
You added the
That's where his window
papal
comes
window
up.
right there.
I don't know what door this is, but
This is one of the holy doors. I don't recall. I didn't take this one, so I don't recall which one. I don't know if that's the St. Peter. So there's a lot of holy doors. They open like every 25 to 50 years, and you get special graces if you go through these holy doors. So it's Our Lady of the church there. So this is St. Peter's. So we're in here, and it's just breathtaking. It's just so beautiful. A place you don't want to leave. So I know you saw this on TV a lot. That was my attempt at like a panorama bit. You're trying your best to capture St. Peter's with a photo. And this is, so we got to St. Peter's, we were a little like semi-late, like on time for Mass Ordo, so we like hustled in, and then they took us downstairs, which I was never at, in the crypt. And so there we were, like rushing into Mass, and there's a person guiding us, so Father Dan and I, and then you go by the tomb of St. Peter, which is right below that baldacchino, and you're just like, you're so caught up in getting to Mass, and like, wait, that's the tomb of St. Peter, you're like, please pray for me. And then you're like running to follow this person to get to the Mass, and you're running, hustling, and then you see the tomb of St. Paul VI, St. Paul the Sixth, and then you keep running, and you're just like, wow, there he is. You're like saying prayers as you're following the sky. You're like, this is amazing. So there's 182 or 3 popes buried in here. So it's just like amazing. So we ended up in this nice, it wasn't that big, like this little chapel, the Hungarian chapel. So it was really neat. That was just our group had, said the Mass. And then we were outside, so this was not the same day. This was like a day or so later. And then we got jockeyed for position, and so the Pope came out, and I think we all got to see him pretty well. I was on the edge, so I saw him pretty close, and he was blessing everybody. And then somebody hands him a baby. It was really neat to see him like interact with the people. So we got pretty close. So I was right there, so I took that picture. Yeah, he was blessing us all. So it is a thrill to see him. I have a video, but I guess we didn't put it on here, but it was like for a minute. So when he was rounding the bend, and it's so exciting to see him come down, and he's coming down. And so he got like pretty close, And then the guy next to me, he's like, Argentina. And the Pope was like, and then I was there, and instead of saying USA, I was like, Pittsburgh. Like showing my true Pittsburgh colors. And I don't know if he didn't hear me, he was just like, I don't think so. No. So I don't know if he didn't hear me or what, but he kind of kept like going. I should have said USA, like real loud. Pittsburgh. All right, so there he is. We were pretty far away. This is, I think, Kathy's attempt to zoom in on him here. But anyway, it was a thrill. And so we saw this church is neat. It's called Quo Vadis. I was there years ago, and then Belinda, I said I'd like to go there again. It's kind of off the beaten pathway a little bit, but Quo Vadis is Latin for where are you going? So that's a famous movie too, like in the 50s, if you're looking for a good religious movie. So what happens is, the tradition is that St. Peter, at that time the church starts getting persecuted, and then they say like, well, you better get out of Rome, you're gonna get killed, and you're the head of the church. So he starts to go down. I think this is the famous Appian Way, this way that the Romans built, it's still there. And we think we invented everything, right? It's amazing when you go over these places and you think, wow, they had that back then, they knew this back then, it's incredible. So anyway, St. Peter was leaving Rome, and then Jesus was walking to Rome, and then Peter says to Jesus, Quo Vadis, where are you going, Lord? And then Jesus says to Peter, I'm going to Rome to be crucified again. And then St. Peter realizes that, wait, I'm supposed to stay here and be crucified, right? So then St. Peter turns around and he goes back. And so in the church, there's the depiction of Jesus' feet, which the tour guide pointed out that this is a depiction because these came from like a pagan temple or something like that. So the tour guide burst my bubble on that one. But anyway, so this would be like where Jesus was standing in the church, and then St. Peter was going that way, away from Rome. And then this is St. Peter. This in the church on the left, you'll see St. Peter, as we know, was crucified upside down. So it was a neat, powerful little church, We were just hitting church after church after church. I mean, I was like, it was pretty intense, but it was fun though. People loved it. But we were on the go a lot, and just praying. When you run into churches, you're praying. So this is St. John Lateran. So remember, we just had this November 9th. So this is the Pope's. So we're back to another basilica. So no specific order, but this is the third one that we're seeing. So St. John Lateran. So St. John Lateran is not a saint as the name St. John Lateran. So St. John is St. John the Baptist. And then St. Lateran is the Lateran family that gave the land. So a wealthy family gave the land. And I think they were killed for the faith. There were two brothers that were killed for the faith. And so the church got I think they donated the land to the church, and the church, they died for the faith. I don't know if it was, I can't remember the story, if it was directly to the faith or they stood up for what was right. I think it was to the faith. And then so they wanted to honor them. So we have St. John the Baptist. So St. John Lateran is the name of the basilica. And it is the Pope's cathedral church. So, and this is this is the holy door from St. John Lateran. So, a beautiful church. I mean, the ceiling is just exquisite. Just the gold. I mean, look at that, the ceiling. And it was, I loved on the sides of the 12 apostles coming in. The floor was magnificent. So, they kind of have a similar feel. Especially that this was a panorama that came out nice. So this is a panorama. It's kind of like trying to get around the whole church there. And there's me. But the floor is just amazing how they do these floors.
Wasn't one of those tiles there from Africa or something? Was that the church?
I think that's what I can't remember
We had a tour guide, he told us
which
everything.
one was H on. That's St. John Lateran. You see the hands again pointing to Jesus, like Mary. You see them. St. John the Baptist, all pointing to Jesus. And there was the chair. That was neat, the Pope's. That would be the cathedral chair. So when he does, as the Bishop of Rome, he's in the chair. All right, so next to St. We're almost done. So everybody still with me? So St. John Lateran, if you're looking at St. John Lateran, as we showed you before, to the right of that would be the Church of the Holy Stairs. We actually would have said Mass at St. John Lateran, but it was on the feast day. We were there, and I guess they weren't letting people come in to say Mass. They had a big Mass with whoever he is, the head cardinal there. I don't know who that is, but they were going to have a Mass at 6 p.m. And so we had Mass across the way and it was really neat. It was the Holy Stairs. So these Holy Stairs, these are from tradition houses. You'll see like the wood and then underneath like a marble. So they originally, the marble brought over by see like you could put your hand in the marble, underneath in the marble. So they put the wood over the marble because they were starting to get warped, like all moved. So everybody going up and doing these on your knees. And where do these steps come from? So St. Helena of Troy, Constantine's mom, she was grabbing hold of, setting up all these things in Israel, bringing things back. She was just on fire with preserving the faith, right? And so she brings these steps from Pilate's palace. So the ones the Lord would have walked up. And so that's why they're so famous, the holy steps that Jesus walked up.
Yeah,
And
go
so-
up on your knees.
So, and then they put the wood over it. So they have one set, you go up on your knees, and then I think there's another side to it, not the holy stairs, but that you could walk up, like they were having people with who couldn't do that, they could like walk up that side, would regularly walk up. But these were the holy steps where you walk up on your knees. And there's prayers that you could say for each step. We said prayers going up, but we were rushing again for Mass, so we when we were able to do like each prayer for each step. We just said a prayer each step. And this is the chapel there. And it was a really nice chapel, nice church there that we said Mass at. And there we are saying Mass. And this is the Pietà. This is in St. Peter's Basilica. When you walk in on the right, at St. Peter's Basilica is the Pietà. Michelangelo, the Pietà. So we're kind of back at the Vatican museums here.
We went there the next day, remember? Didn't we go back?
Yeah, and then this is, you couldn't take pictures of the Sistine Chapel either.
Yeah.
So you got in there and the guys like walking around saying, don't take pictures. It was like, and quieting everybody down.
I know, that cracked me up.
Yeah, it's like shushing you every 5 minutes. It would shush everybody, and then he would leave, and then he'd get loud again. He'd come back and shush everybody. But you weren't supposed to take pictures. This is the poster outside the tour guy was taking us through. But he said the guy was talking about the rosary. I was like, where's the rosary in that? So I just took a picture of that close up. So the angel pulling people up to salvation through the rosary. I love that. I never knew that before. So it's kind of caught my eye. So I just took the picture of it. This is St. John the 23rd. His body, that's a mask on his hands and feet again, but his body's in the main St. Peter's Basilica. And St. John Paul II is there too. He's in a regular, I think it's a marble tomb there. He wasn't in glass. And this is the famous, one of the famous statues of St. Peter. Like you can see his foot's just real smooth from all the people kissing it over the years. Both of them. And so now it's roped off. I guess they didn't want it to disintegrate into nothing. And this is all St. Peter's, the baldacchino, and then the big Holy Spirit above the baldacchino above the altar. I think it's Bernini. Mm-hmm. And then this is the mother of the church. This is a famous old icon. And what's neat is this is the one that St. John Paul II, he had put out, I think it was after the assassination attempt, he had this as a giant mosaic. So when you're looking at the Vatican to the right, he said we got to get Our Lady up there. So this huge mosaic from that. That's the model, and it's on the right of the Vatican. And that's the dome of Michelangelo. And that's neat too, because the dome is, around the dome is, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, the words. So that's what the whole church is built upon, is St. Peter's Confession. I was just taking some of these. It was really neat to see. So these are huge statues. There's not a lot of them, but there's this huge statues at St. Peter's below and above. And so I was just looking at some of the ones, and I love them all. St. John Bosco, and they're really just catchy. This is part of the crew.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, three of the buildings are here tonight. So that's at St. Peter's. Here's some Swiss Guard. St. Teresa of Avila. So these were some of these giant statues in there. This is outside the famous one, St. Peter holding the keys. This is St. Mary. This is the last one, is St. Mary Major. So of course we have to have one of the 4 basilicas dedicated to Our Lady. So this is one of them, this huge one here. And outside, this was really high. It doesn't really give you justice on this with Our Lady standing up there. And this is St. Mary Major, trying to do a panorama. Came out pretty nice. So they kind of have similar feel, some of these, the 4 basilicas. This is a famous painting attributed to St. Luke himself. So this is Our Lady holding Jesus. So that's the famous icon of St. Luke. It is similar to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. Oh, so we went to St. Peter in Chains, which is, in Rome somewhere. And so it's a, popular place to go. But when you're walking in, Father Dan actually spotted it in Thy Kingdom Come. So every bishop has a titular church, which is, he would be like responsible of. So every cardinal gets a church in Rome. So Cardinal Wuerl, his church in Rome is St. Peter in Chains, which is a well-known church. So when you walk in, you say, outside, before you walk in, you see Bishop Wuerl's coat of arms, Thy Kingdom Come. And then you go in, you see in Peter in Chains, he would have been wrapped in chains and taken, with those. And then this is the famous thing there too, this is the Moses by Michelangelo. So famous, another famous sculpture. All right, you guys still with it? I'm almost done. And this is in that holy stairs, the church, the holy stairs, and they didn't open this up till recently. They
needed a ticket to get in there.
Yeah, they didn't let
us
you in for years, and it's the Pope's prayer chapel. So various popes would go there to pray. So it was neat. I never even heard of it, but it was neat. This is just in the chapel. This is part of the table of the Lord's Supper here. Went there.
Chapel.
Yeah, it was pretty neat place. We're closing it out with Belinda and Valeria, our tour guide. And this is our bus driver, Nelson.
He was amazing, going up these streets. There's much room.
And that's Valeria, so they were a good team. They're good people. And that's Father Dan and I buying us some gear, university stuff. And that's what they bought me. They bought me this really nice Padre Pio stole. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then, so this was our
restaurant.
This was our last night when we ate it, like one of those ones where they sang and all that, do that kind of stuff. So this guy came out and he's singing, he's cutting people's hair, and then he brings out this shaving thing, and he's like immediately turns to me.
And there's a lot of pictures of him, but even only me put 2.
So he shaved me with a
regular brush, and then he used
with
the
a sword
to shave his face.
But fortunately, it was like a hard plastic sword. But that was fun. That was a highlight. He was a really good singer too.
I have the
really
record of that.
So it was fun. That was our. And that's ciao.
Ciao.
All right. So any questions? Thank you.
You didn't go to Florence.
No, we didn't go to. So Florence is north. So you got to make a decision, kind of in Italy, when you get to like Rome. Assisi's pretty close, Orvieto. But then you start thinking, am I going down or am I going up? Just based on, you could do it, but based on time and based on money. Because when you start adding like those cities up and down, it escalates quickly, these prices,
Yeah, well, she went to Florence.
Yeah, I've been to Florence before, just not on this trip.
When you were in Rome, did you go to the Roman church?
Is that one of the crypt churches?
No, it's a church,
Oh, yeah, yeah, with
and
all the.
there's
yeah,
about
yeah.
7 little rooms, and everything in the room is made out of bones.
Yeah.
Human bones. It is really,
I'm trying to remember, I think I may have been there like 24 years
no,
ago.
we asked, we thought, well, maybe did they come from like, being martyrs or something? They said, no, just regular people
bones.
dying in the church.
Yeah. I'm trying to go back, I think I may have, was there 24 years
Yeah,
ago.
it's beautiful. Did they tell you the story in the Sistine Chapel about the wall, where you got, creation and then you got the hail and everything?
Yeah, we
Did
saw
they
that.
tell you that story that goes with it?
No, it's the story.
He was painting it, and this cardinal came in, and Michelangelo, and, he wanted him to put clothes on the people. And he said, no, I'm not gonna do that. And he got really mad at this cardinal. So the cardinal went away to go and complain to the Pope. And when he came back, the painting was finished. And he put him in hell. He put this cardinal.
Yeah.
He painted him.
He did, in the system. Yeah, he put the guy. And these guys didn't mess around back then. And then there would be rivalries, and they'd be in different poses, like him and Raphael. They would have like these
Well,
competitions.
then after he died and he was finished, and then his assistant went back and put clothes on all the people.
Yeah, he did.
Remember
say-
they said
yeah,
that,
he
yeah.
did.
Was that close to the catacombs? Or did you go to the catacombs?
We did get to the we wouldn't have been too far away because we were at that one church, Quo Vadis. There was like signs to go to the catacombs. You just can do so much. I mean, we
told
were
my
just.
mother, she was 79, and she says, "Get me out of here." But we went
Yeah,
to
I was
the-
there years ago. When I was there 24 years ago, I did do the catacombs. That was kind of neat, though.
It
You
is.
see them, and then you see like the tombs and the they're opening them like beehive kind of things. Like
Yeah.
they're like openings in the wall.
We got to walk through, not this time, but when I was there, through the door of St.
About
Peter's
several
Basilica.
people.
It was he opened it in 2000
Yeah.
for International World Youth Day, so our kids got to go through too.
I don't know what church it was, but it was like,
And
they
then-
do it every 7 years, and we were there to open that door. That
Oh.
was emotional. That was emotional.
Yeah. 2 of our people got to meet the Pope. So then we had
4 of them, really.
Well, 4, the 2 pushing the wheelchairs and 2 in the
The
wheelchairs.
2 in the wheelchairs and the.
So I didn't even. We were kind of breaking up a little because it was like a big crowds, that kind of thing. And then the cops the officers saw them pushing them, and they didn't know anything about it. And they saw them, and they immediately was like, this way, this way. So we didn't even know they were up there until afterward. I was just roaming around at that point. It was like breaking up. And then those 4 of them, they were like beaming. They're like, Father, please don't. I was like, what?
And there's a tape. It's on Facebook. I was gonna put it on here, but I didn't know how to get it on here. But he spent like a couple minutes with them,
Yeah, well, the one knew Spanish. So I think
Yeah,
he's
but-
real, yeah. I don't
and he
know
was
if
talking
he's
to her. But
probably said English.
after he went to Jim, then he
Jimmy.
went to his wife, and then he went back to Jim.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because she was telling him in Italian he had a brain tumor. He said, "Breakfast,"
Oh, yeah.
and he blessed him. And
So those-
yeah,
there's a video of that. Their name's Nevis.
yeah.
And she knew Spanish, so she just like, they
She
were
was
talking to
talking
him.
to him.
And he was like looking excited talking to
Yeah,
her.
he was. It was
So,
fun. They had a great time up there.
yeah, but it was a great trip. I mean, just mass every day and a lot of, it was neat to go to all those
Places.
churches and
Yeah,
just
we
pray at the
did it in
churches.
in front of St. Benedict.
Light
Just
candles
all
at
these
churches,
places.
and I think the saints too, just they really inspire you to be at these places and the impact that they have and continue. I mean, some of these been long gone, as far as walking the earth, and then the impact that they still have with all these people pouring in to see them. It's just beautiful.
They still have that code to go into the Sistine Chapel. You can't go like short sleeves. Or,
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah,
have
you
to
can't go
worry
anywhere.
with
No, you
November.
can go with
wasn't-
short sleeves.
Yeah, November wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if they want like tank tops, maybe like.
No.
Right, you just have to wear
Pants.
shorts.
They won't let my daughter in until we cover her. She had
Or
a
short,
dress.
sleeveless, yeah, right. Yeah, that's what we did in Rome too, but we carried them in our backpacks.
No,
Pick up the
no,
shawls and put 'em around.
And all the travel went really well too. With
It did.
we didn't have really trouble with the travel, the planes and.
Do they speak English in tour?
Our tour guide,
Yeah, they were really
She had to
good.
find so many people. When we were in Rome, everybody wanted to go shop, and they would go in this shop, and we had her phone number. I mean, I never, but some of the people, she goes, I had to go back for 10 people today.
And that's what we ate so much pasta over there.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Well, she was saying that they have it real al dente, and then she purposely said, Belinda was the one on the left, like the blondish hair. She's the one that runs all those tours through the Pittsburgh Catholic. So, and I've been with her a couple other tours, but she really fights for your rights. Belinda's like one of these, like, she's a really
She's
kind
the
hearted.
one who got the abbot to stand with you guys.
Yeah, she's a
When
go-getter.
Subiaca, she goes, he was him.
So she said that they would eat the pasta and it would be, they all took it back, this group she had, so she has to make it a little more than authentic. But I got there to Cece and I was like, I saw the waiter, I was like, I want it that way, so it was good. He made it for like my personal dish like that. I was like, thanks. But it was really good. So they had a pasta at the beginning and then they would bring out like a lot of, like a couple times we ate veal, pork.
A lot of
We did
pork.
like zero, I don't know who set the menu, whether
and
Belinda
chicken. The
or
first
whatnot,
one
but we
had
had
chicken, no
zero fish.
No fish.
And I thought like on the coast we would get that, but I don't know if Belinda did that. I didn't
Well, you didn't go
chance.
to Naples, you would have.
Okay, yeah, and then zero chicken. It was
That
weird.
first night we had chicken that was breaded.
Oh, yeah,
Remember?
yeah.
That was the first night.
But it was fun. Like just the thing too. The other thing about when you travel, if you ever think about a pilgrimage, is to think you get 35 people and not everybody knows one another and total strangers. But you do it in the Lord, and you just get rolling, and the meals and the travel, and it was rocking. Like people were so happy getting to know one another. I mean, it shows you the Holy Spirit, and like we were all one body in Christ. Like we were all had the same values, initiatives, like what we were trying to do, and it was just beautiful to see people blend together like that. That's just a real gift of the Holy Spirit on these pilgrimages, the way we can come together like that. So, in lasting friendships, hopefully people stay in touch and do all that. But yeah, we're just blessed. It was neat. We were almost 90, and then who's the youngest would have been Keegan was about 17. So we went from 90 to 17. And the other thing we did last day, I don't want to hold you up, but last thing that we did was pretty neat, was called Prayer Partners. So actually, I learned that, so not to take credit for it, so I learned that Father Scott Seataller, I used to go as a seminarian on these trips with him, and he started this thing, Prayer Partners, so everybody would pick a name that you didn't know, you wouldn't reveal the person till the end. And so that was really moving. Like you're praying for that particular person, then usually you get like a little like gift at the end. And so you reveal them at the last dinner. And that was really powerful, moving. So I showed Belinda that a couple of tours ago. So she does it on all her tours. And then she'll say like, and Father Terry, and then I'll say, Father Scott showed me. So I don't want to get all this credit. It was funny. So she does that on all her tours with the bishop now and all that. But that originally came from Father Scott. But it was a really neat thing. And that's part of it, you're like praying, you're doing, it's a real prayerful time. Yes?
Father, if you were to go on another pilgrimage, where would you want to go?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, my schedule's pretty much iced because my mom now. So the problem, like if it was, the problem with my schedule now with the pilgrims is you have to set these up like a year and a half. I mean, you know what I mean? You're trying to get 30, 40 people on these trips and get the word out, so you can't do them like in a couple months. So I know I'm not answering your question. So I haven't overly thought that far ahead. I'd like to go back to Israel one of these days. I've been there. But I'm just I'm on hold now because I just don't want to go that far. I don't want to put anything that far out there that I couldn't, I just don't know. Hopefully my mom's around, but I just feel funny. I felt a little funny leaving this time. I was getting a little nervous, not because of the trip, just because of you're leaving, leave my mom. And, but it was a blessing. It all worked out well, but I was getting a little antsy with that. But once I got there, I was fine. It worked out. My mom's doing pretty well. So, but it's just too hard for me to set things up down the road now. But anyway, to answer your question, probably Israel would be one of those. That what I would like to do, depends on what year it is. I'm still in good shape. Is the shape I'm in pretty good. Is the way that walk with the to walk to St. James of Compostela in Spain. People are doing that left and right now. Not so much always religious people doing that. That really caught fire, that thing, the way. So it's this famous walk that you do. You stop along the way. So that would be pretty neat to do.
Is that the one Dan did?
Yeah, Father Dan, who's in that video, he's leading one, I think, in April for that. There's a movie on that, actually, if you're interested, with Martin Sheen and his son, Emilio Estevez. So they put this, I think it's called The Way.
It's called something, Steps of Camino to.
The Camino. But the movie's really good. It kind of gives you a feel of what they do, and they stay at different places, and you're like backpacking, and there's some really good things about it. So that might be one of them I'd like to try. So anyway, what's the time check? We okay?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, 8:30. So, all right, well, I don't want to hold everybody up. So any comments on the pilgrim? I think Judy, your hand up before.
I did. One of the things I remember most, Father, is I don't remember which cathedral we were in. We were in so many of them. We were all gathered together, and we all impromptu started to sing Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I was a pilgrim. People were videoing us and listening to us. But it was that was really thrilling that we could actually do that.
Yeah, we kept getting better and better, I think. So.
Yeah, we sang a lot out of that. Was at St. John Lateran. And it was like, sing. We're singing.
Yeah,
People are coming
yeah.
around. I'm like,
So that was good.
Well, thank you.
So, all right, we'll say a closing prayer. Okay, you ready? In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Mary, Mother of God,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
All right, thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening, whoever's listening.
I wish I had that. And you did, like your prayer partner. Mine happened to be Mary Lou. Like I was her. And my prayer partner was Judy. And it was so nice.